Sonic X Comic Issue 21. We start out with Sonic having a bad dream where he thought Eggman was going to kill him and Tails for sure. And to save on padding, he's immediately woken up in the next panel. And he says that Chris had been talking about the Robonicle so much that he's giving him nightmares. So I guess it's got a more dark and edgy tone to it. It's nice to see a vulnerable side of him that takes someone dangerous like Eggman seriously for a change, showing us what he's like beneath the mask instead of always being cocky and boring us. And I like that Tails had looked really worried about him and Amy asked if he was okay. Chuck then reads a newspaper telling him that a scientist is going to test an interdimensional warp ray. This is obviously too good to be true because it'd be too easy of a way for the heroes to get back home. And the anime and this share continuity for some reason, so the anime is going to be where they go home, not this. And I already know that the heroes go back home in the anime in a different way entirely. So I'm sure that either the warp ray won't work or it'll be a trap by Eggman. How gullible is Chuck that he would even consider that a scientist on Earth other than him would make such futuristic technology? This is like the fake deroboticizer in Underground, only not nearly as bad because as long as the heroes are fighting Eggman, it doesn't matter if they stay on Earth. While the deroboticizer would have been instrumental to finally taking down Robotnik, or at the very least getting rid of the Robian problem. The scientist Pell had come up with the idea for the warp ray when he was going to college with Chuck and used nanotechnology, and Chuck asked where he could have gotten the materials. The robots show Eggman a TV interview of Pell, and Eggman takes a suggestion from his robot for once, deciding to try to steal Pell's invention. Okay, so they'll go with the idea that it won't work, right? Because this is just like in Underground, where he stole the deroboticizer. Eggman says that he's going to shrink Sonic. Wait, what? What does a shrink ray have to do with an interdimensional teleporter? Huh? How did he get the idea he could do this? Couldn't he make a shrink ray himself? Wow, this plot got derailed. Eggman and his robots show up to Sonic in mech suits, and all of them get shrunken by the ray with the heroes for an overexposed Sonic plot, which was already done in Archie and Archie Again and Fleetway. Tails flies away in the tornado, and Amy cringes at the crash in front of her. Sonic pulls Tails out from under the rubble, with them both somehow being perfectly unharmed when Tails should have been crushed by this point. So the crash only happened so Eggman would get separated from him by the rubble. Couldn't the plane have gone fast enough for that to happen naturally without making me wonder how the heroes are injured? They all go into a toy store, where they hide among some life-size dolls of the Sonic characters with overly angry eyebrows just for the sake of forcing comedy, since realistically they wouldn't make them like that. Tails sneezes from the stuffing and it gives their location away. So them getting separated from the villains was only to pad out the story because they got discovered without getting a free hit on Eggman. Chuck asked the scientist where he found Rubinite for its experiments, but the writer seems to use Chris cutting him off as a lame excuse to lazily not explain where the scientist got it. Which is a shame since I had immediately assumed he got it from Eggman. Although that would be too predictable, but he has to have gotten it from him. This is boring normal Earth. I'm not sure Rubinite even exists in the real world, so where would he logically get it, other than from Eggman? Pell says it'll take hours to repair the shrink ray that was broken earlier. What does the shrink ray have to do with an interdimensional teleporter? This plot came out of complete nowhere. Amy shows her faith in Sonic by saying that Sonic might be hurt already. It kind of works for Sally, but not for Amy. Amy's supposed to be, if anything, someone who has too much faith in Sonic. Sonic tells Tails to split up because they can't chase them both, and Tails just meekly agrees instead of pointing out that they're being chased by more than one person anyways. So of course they can chase them both. The robot sidekicks are pretty competent and threatening for a change, since they're firing lasers from their mecha suits. And it makes sense that they'd have to wear these ugly looking things to justify Eggman not having to repair them when they lose. It does make me wonder why he bothers. It would have made more sense to Scratchy Grounder wore these things. One of them hopes he'll get a paycheck as a reward. Why would he ever think that? And the robots start arguing over who's dating a Barbie doll that's clearly not making any noise or approaching them or talking to them. That was a forced joke. He makes a noise, it gives himself away, and Pell and Chuck figure out how to get the shrink ray working for a 5-second burst, when Pell just said it could take hours. Seriously, how does a normal Earth scientist make a shrink ray? Are they trying to have it be realistic, boring Earth, or not? If not, then just have it be Mobius already. Mobius had humans just fine. Pell also lampshades that they never should have split up in their partnership. So why did they? That's a plot hole. Like, compare this to, like, even Danny Phantom bothered to explain why the dad of the show split up with Vlad. As Eggman chases Sonic with a tank toy and Sonic dodges a ricocheting fist, Tails drives a toy car when toy cars don't have engines for little people in them to drive with. I think they'd only work through remote control, and we didn't see Tails use his engineering skills to make it a real car. Though that would take time you wouldn't have, but that's why this doesn't work. Although it is funny to see. But it's not like he magically created an engine with magic. We could really use more Chaos Emeralds in this series, if only because they would make the plot make more sense. Sonic uses Slinkies on Eggman to get away, but when they start running away, Tails looks scared when a thrown fist makes a boom sound while being nowhere near its head, and Sonic calls out to him when his car crashes for the sake of conflict. This is the kind of thing that desperately needed to be seen in motion to make sense. At least Tails has a bruise in his cheek now, so they're gutsy in that respect. Sonic pulls him out from under his car, and I'm immediately taken out of it when I see that out of complete nowhere Tails has band-aids on his head now. That's extremely stupid of anime to do. And this isn't anime, this is a American-produced and written comic book. Tails loves to have a backpack on with a ring on it, so why doesn't he just have band-aids in it, and we can see that Sonic can use on him? This could have easily made sense. Tails starts to despair while Sonic stays confident, and when Eggman tries to fire boxing gloves at him, they all get unshrunken. Seriously, why isn't the Shrink Ray just a Chaos Emerald with the unique shrinking power? I would have loved that. Instead, it's an Earth scientist with a Shrink Ray? Mike Bullock wrote this issue, and it was Bullock's. What does the Shrink Ray have to do with a Warp Ray? Why would it be made on Earth? That's dumb. Robotnik's proven he can make Shrink Rays just fine, but in this continuity, they feel the need to introduce some other random scientist with no personality who's somehow able to invent a Shrink Ray with the plutonium from Earth, and all he does is create plot holes, when it would have made a lot more sense if we just simplified it and had one of the Chaos Emeralds have a unique power that's clearly defined for once. That would have been a lot cooler. It doesn't have to be science. Why did he split up from Chuck when they have perfectly fine chemistry? And it's not like they're fighting over a woman or something. Otherwise, we would have heard about that. They would have referenced it. Why did he get his Rubinite? I can't believe they didn't explain that. I didn't see this plot coming, and sometimes being unpredictable is a bad thing. I thought it'd be about a hope spot that gets shot down where the warp ray doesn't actually work, or is a trap by Eggman to take advantage of what the heroes want to have. Though that would have been more annoying than a plot like this, which is at least interesting. Instead, it's yet another plot where Sonic and friends get shrunken, which Archie did better, and AOSTH did better, and Fleetwood did better. It was interesting to see the heroes shrunken, like to see what they did, but the problem is, here the shrinking part comes out of complete nowhere, and instead of Sonic and Tails fighting the villains confidently, like in Archie, they spend the whole time evading them. Though that is at least realistic. How did Tails manage to drive a toy car? How did he crash his tornado that easily? How did he and Sonic not get badly injured from the first crash, making the whole rest of the plot not happen because Eggman would have won? Why did the robots argue over a human-looking, clearly inanimate doll that couldn't have possibly talk to them, and they shouldn't have been able to be attracted to? It was good at the tension, because they were running away, but in Archie, Sonic had no problem tricking the villains into driving into stuff with a super speed, like he always does. And he shouldn't be at a speed disadvantage relative to Eggman, because here, Eggman's drunken too. And in Archie, Sonic's friends helped out by sending violin strings at Eggman. And AOSTH, while a lot of it was just pointless, at least we got to see the moles helping out Sonic as Chekhov's gunmen after they were captured. And Sonic and Tails took control of the robots by going into them while tiny. This was my least favorite execution of this kind of plot. They're all the same size, so aside from using toys, it makes no difference what size they are. And I really don't understand how the villains got defeated in mecha suits that forced Sonic to just run away from them. The shrink ray hit them and made them fly around, but why? Why for so long with a 5-second charge? Why only then when it wasn't just them who got hit? This story sucked. And what also sucks is that the Leprechaun mecha was never seen again after it took off in an earlier issue in a comic book. Comics have continuity. Why conclude a story that way?